Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. And I'm so excited I have Tim Brownson from Coach the Life Coach with us today. And we're going to get right into our conversation. So, hey Tim, thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for asking me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. So, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, well, for the most part now, I only work with coaches, and have done. I do still do some private practice stuff. I'll pick and choose clients that I think are a great fit for me. But I started back in 2005, so I did life coaching, traditional life coaching. That's all I did for about 8 to 9 years, and then I started getting more and more coaches coming to me. And it's kind of interesting because any coach listening to this will know that. If you're training coactive coaching like I was, there's a process to it, and it's basically you don't offer advice. Well, I'm a bit egotistical. I like offering advice, so that was always a problem for me. Not seriously, but so when working with other coaches, I found there's certain information I can impart that's more objective than subjective. That is the danger with life coaching. So I started just working with more coaches, and that grew organically. And I love it because it allows me to flip back and forth between traditional coaching, which is like asking the questions, getting people to come up with the solutions themselves, and just saying, hey, guess what? I've got this fantastic idea. If you do this with your marketing, it's going to be way more successful than what you're doing now. So, and just prior to that, without getting too self-indulgent, I spent 20 years in corporate sales and all the kind of stuff that goes with that, and made a lot of money. But I think like a lot of people that get into coaching, moved into coaching because I was dissatisfied with my current lot, whether that's corporate or whether that's somebody that's stay at home looking after the kids or whatever. It really doesn't matter.
Right.
You tend to gravitate towards coaching for two reasons. Either, both really. We love to help people, and we don't like where we are now and want to do something about it. So, that was a very long-winded answer to your question.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So you do have the corporate background. I've noticed, and myself included, that we do get tired of where we are, and we want to make a change. And usually we're helpers, like exactly like you said. And so the coaching kind of seems to make a lot of sense for that. Yeah. So tell me, what kind of, mindset did you have when you first became a coach?
Well, my mindset was that I'm going to be fabulously wealthy because I was kind of into the self-development stuff quite a while before I got into to being a coach. I mean, that never really crossed my mind to begin with. So I was listening to, back in the day. I'm trying to, it sounds a bit lame, but so I'm going to the late 90s, early 2000s. It was actually difficult to find, as it was then, CDs on self-development that you could go and buy. In fact, so one of the reasons why I live in the US now is because I love the US, and I used to come here once, twice a year at least. And every time I came here, I would find myself at Borders or Barnes & Noble or whatever and buy up every self-development CD that I'd not already got. And like I say, I was earning 6 figures at the time, and that was then, so what that would be worth now. And I would buy all these CDs. And then as I was driving all over the UK, I would listen to them and think, and quite often I think, I could do better than that, which is incredibly arrogant and probably not true, but that's what, that was the belief at the time. And like I said, I never crossed my mind that I was going to be a coach, and I kind of stumbled into coaching. So, but now, it's like a fire hose of information for new coaches. It's not like, well, where do I find a podcast to listen to? I just don't know where to go. Well, there's 30 there and there's 27 over. It's just like, it's just like ridiculous. I mean, when I started coaching in 2005, I didn't know where to find information other than the company that had trained me. And now it's just like, well, the biggest problem coaches have now is filtering out bad information rather than trying to find enough information.
Absolutely. So that kind of red shiny syndrome where there's just so much around to look at, and even all the free content can get really overwhelming, and you don't know what to do.
Some of it's bad.
Yeah.
You know, I see bad advice, so I've got a Facebook group, there's 4,500 coaches in there, and sometimes people will offer advice and they really mean well. It's just like, and I'm like, how do I be diplomatic about this and just say, no, you can't do that, it doesn't work, or you're gonna, and it's difficult because people see things, and one of the biggest problems with the coaching industry that I find is coaches look at other coaches that appear to be successful, because no coach goes onto their blog and says, I've got no clients. Does anybody know? They don't do that. So everybody gives off this perception of success. Right. So they look at a site and think, oh, that's really cool. And they replicate it and don't realize they're replicating a failing model. And then that goes on and on and on and on. And, we both know that the vast majority of coaches are struggling for clients. And I'm seeing huge influx at the moment because of coronavirus. I thought I would see the opposite. And maybe. So I thought people would bail out the coaching industry because they got other things on the mind. And maybe that's happening. Because it's not really something you would notice. But I'm seeing a lot of people in my group, a lot of people that are just like, oh, let me just see if I can do this and go online and make a fortune. A bit like I did 15 years.
Yeah. I agree. I see that as well. And also I've been talking a lot to coaches about stepping up and being leaders so that they can, not only just survive, but do well in this time, right. Because it's a huge opportunity for us to help others and really, again, establish ourselves as leaders right. In the industry, because we're used to working online. This is what we do.
Yeah.
So I have seen that influx as well.
Actually, something, sorry to butt in, Cal, but for my first 5 years of coaching, I only ever saw patients face-to-face. My wife's a doctor. She's on call at the moment, so I'm talking to her about clients face-to-face. So people would have to come to my house. And now I will, in fact, I had somebody about 2 or 3 weeks ago, a woman that wanted to drive to Tampa to see me. I'm like, no, I'm just not, I won't do that, because there's nothing I do. When I first started, I'm not sure when you first started, but I'm guessing it's, it was similar. There was Skype 15 years ago, right. But it was flaky and it was grainy. And, at the time I did a lot of NLP and a lot of hypnotherapy, and you have to have that really good feedback. Yep. We didn't have the broadband stability that we've got now. Now it's kind of like, you just don't need, there's no reason for you to drive 10 minutes to me, never mind 2 hours from Tampa, because we've got broadband. I've got 1 gig fiber optic down. It's just like, you don't need it. It's just like, forget about it. Let's just do it like this. But I think this is going to change that more than everything that's happened over the last 5 years. Now people are going to it's going to be the new normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a new normal for anything, not just coaching. So
right, exactly. Yeah. Comedy even. I'm a big comedy fan, so it's just like, well, you got to watch it online.
So let me ask you, how did you find your first client back then?
I think, and I get asked questions like, how do you get into coaching? How do you, and a lot of it is like a little bit of a blur. Mm-hmm. But I actually found my first client through online, just because. So we moved in 2006, February 2006 to the US. So I'd started coaching spring 2005, and I got some clients fairly quickly in the UK because I got, I've been in sales for 20 years. I got a big support network. I knew people to call, new people, and I found clients that way. I didn't need that many because we were getting prepared to move over to this country. When we got here, it's like nothing because I knew nobody. I've got an aunt in Ohio, and that wasn't really that much good. I knew nobody. It's just so it was a question of getting my website up and running. And the time, to the best of my knowledge, there was only 3, maybe 4 coaches in Orlando, and there was nobody else my side of Orlando, West, Tampa side of Orlando. And I got occasional clients. Sorry, and that's my dog, my youngest dog, licking my leg. I got clients just in spite of myself that would just because they would do a search and I would come up. So it was very much more luck than judgment. And then after about, I don't know, 7 or 8 months, I got into blogging, and then it became a different ball game altogether. And then it became, over a period of time, more of a structured online approach to marketing, rather than just like, oh, here I am, come and get me. Nobody wants.
So it sounds like the blogging, so content marketing, and that's actually a challenge I'm running in my group this month, or May, is on content marketing. But the blogging, yeah, it's a big thing to put yourself out there. And there is a ton of bloggers now and podcasters and everything else, but still there's a market for it, and that's why there's so many, I think.
Well, I think there's a number of reasons to blog, Carol. I mean, first and foremost, most coaches get blogging wrong. They think it's just a question of putting out content on a weekly basis or whatever, and that kind of doesn't work, because if you can't drive traffic to it. So me, blogging, well, first of all, it allows you to compose your thoughts. It allows you to explain what you think. So when you're talking with a client, it's much easier then because we've all got these ideas that are like wandering around the corridors of our brain, and sometimes they make sense and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you think they make sense and then you utter it and you realize they don't,
Right.
But I think with blogging, it allows you to do that. It allows you to talk to people. But for me, it's what I built my business on, with SEO, with search engine optimization. And that's the thing that most coaches get wrong. They think they just need to put content up there and then Google will find them. And it doesn't work. It used to. I mean, that was, how I built my business. Right. But blogging is a great way. I encourage every coach to guest blog. Get yourself on as many different blogs as you can. You expose yourself to a different audience. You make yourself a better writer, because you have to be. Otherwise, other blogs are going to turn you down if you don't quite get it right. Right. And that's the bedrock was the bedrock of my business. I still get, I did a consult 2 or 3 days ago from a blog post I wrote over 10 years ago. Oh, wow. And that's the thing. This stuff doesn't go away once it's indexed.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing though. 10 years. That's
yeah. Well, I closed so I have 2 businesses, a daring adventure, which was my first coaching business. It's still there. Although I don't promote it anymore, and then Coach Life Coach. Well, the Daring Adventure, I closed the newsletter list down earlier on this year. I had people emailing I had dozens and dozens of emails from people, and people were saying, I've been on your list since you started in 2006 and what have you. And it was really nice. It was really gratifying. Yeah. I was also thinking, well, why didn't you hire me? Well, maybe that's me. Maybe I just didn't, help them enough.
No. I'm the same way. I get like awesome emails. I'm like, okay, so why didn't you hire me?
The thing is with that, in all seriousness, and that's, coaches need to understand, is some people will love you, and that's great, but they'll never want to hire you. Some people won't really love you, but they will want to hire you. It's just what's the point in time, and what was the message you delivered at that particular point that resonated with them or what have you. I have people. And one of the biggest, I've made a lot of mistakes in marketing, a lot over the years, but possibly one of the biggest was, or one of the biggest realizations was maybe, I don't know, 2009, 2010. I was working with a client, it was a face-to-face client, and it was the last session. He bought a package of 6 or 8 or whatever, and he just said to me, I don't know how to ask this, but would it be possible if we carried on working together? And I'm like, how shit am I not explaining what I do, that there's somebody there wants to hire me and is getting apprehensive about asking me? as if I'd say, no, get out. Get out. I have shown you all I need. And that's the thing. And it dawned on me, like, holy crap, is that the aura, for the want of a better word, that I'm giving off? That if you don't get what you need to get done in the time we're working together, then I can't help you. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes you've got to be a bit patient.
And that's interesting because, that speaks to, making the ask. There's, for renewals, a lot of coaches that I've had the experience of talking to feel like, asking for that renewal is some sort of, a bad impression on what they did in the current contract or
right.
Yeah. And that's just not true. Like, you can't get to everything, and things come up from your initial engagement, and that's okay, as long as you're working towards their goals and you're showing success in some way that the client sees. It's the client's success, right, that we're looking for. And so, so making that ask to renew, to continue, I think is a vital, important part of the engagement.
I agree. And it's one of the biggest. So I said I was in sales, and part of that I used to train salespeople. And one of the biggest issues they've got is that asking. It's almost like I'm admitting some form of guilt, or it should just happen. Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't just happen. You just have to say to people, do you want to move forward? Do you want to sign a contract? And it's the same with re-upping as well. People have got, you have to treat your clients like adults, like they can say, what, I mean, it's fine to me, Carl, it's fine for a coach to say, what, I'd like to carry on working with you, but I understand, we work together this period of time. If you want to go away and think about this, right, and think about where we can still grow, do this or this or whatever, it doesn't matter, you have that ready in your mind, depending on the client, then that's fine. I don't want to put you on the spot. So I understand clients that don't want to, I hate hard selling people. To me, sales is a process about, this is what I can do for you and how I can help you. Right. If you can see the value in that, then let's do it. If not, then that's fine. I either didn't explain it clearly enough, or there is no value. So I think with coaches, it's not, there's a big difference between trying to close somebody and not giving somebody the opportunity to hire you again, because you could be moving on. I'm sure I did, where people think, well, I'd like to hire that guy again, but he obviously doesn't want to work with me. And that's kind of like the worst form of miscommunication.
Right.
So, if you're a coach and listen to this and you value what you do, then give your clients, because you never know how long it's going to take. We've all had clients where I've had clients on the console where it's gone like that. I'm never going to hire me. I'm not going to get paid for this. But it's kind of nice, it's nice to have. Right. Other people have to, I've done a value session with clients. It's just like, that's it. That's it. Other clients, it takes longer. So it's let them make their own mind up. And like I said, with salespeople, they often will not let them make their own mind up. It's like they make a decision, this is right for them, they can't afford it, or, it's not, whatever. So,
and we definitely have to watch that, because we don't want to work with people that, aren't meant to work with us, but also that aren't able to, because then, what happens there, you just have a bad engagement. And
right.
It wastes
that's the worst thing. As a coach, we've all done that. Yeah. I always say to coaches, if you ever get a negative feeling on a consult about a client, it's happened to me, I don't know, 50 times. One time, well, no, not one time, beg your pardon, more, probably 3 or 4 times where I overrode it. It was always, this is not, this is,
it just doesn't feel right.
No. No. I took a client on, sorry, I'm rambling now. I took a client on second and third year who told me he got bipolar, and he said, but it's managed with medication. It's probably don't feel right. Okay, because when you're short of cash, when you've not got many clients, you kind of will. I'm starting to sound like Anthony Fauci now. You will override that gut instinct. And I was going to say there was one time that I did override it where I was wrong, and I went back and worked with the client, but for the most part, listen to your gut instinct. I have taken us completely off topic now. I apologize.
All right, let me ask you this. So, so a lot of coaches hate to niche down, and this is something I kind of harp on a little bit, but what are your thoughts around, you know, choosing whether or not they need to choose a niche, and then how to go about doing it?
Okay, well, I'm going to call it a niche because I'm British and we stole it off the French. Yeah, you need to do it, pretty much. It's just I would change, when people got the word niche in their head, I would say change that and say specialist. What am I a specialist in? Because that's what people want. So the example, and I used this example the other day with a client, and it's so my wife, until relatively recently, she's works in oncology. She's a doctor and she worked in just head and neck oncology, and she's gone actually now into private, just general medicine, just to get experience in general medicine before we move back to the UK. Not that we're going to be moving now, because we'll never sell our house, but you know what I mean, theoretically.
Yeah.
And it's like, so let's suppose you've got, you get diagnosed with throat cancer, for example. That was something she would see on a daily basis. Do you want to go to a head and neck oncologist, or do you want to go to your general practitioner to be treated? And the reality is you want to go to the specialist. People want to feel like they're working with somebody that's a specialist. So I sent out a newsletter recently where one of the worst words to use in your marketing or in your company name, I'll explain in a second, is and. So it's like when I first started, I told myself, right, a personal and business coach. Well, which are you? You know, and the example I used in the newsletter was, you know, if you're in a small town, you just moved there and you've got toothache, and you know you need a dentist. You do a search. There's only two local results. One is dentist, and the other one is dentist and hairdresser, or dentist and mechanic. You're going to call, and it's not Ghostbusters. You're going to call the dentist. You know, I want the person that just does teeth. You know, and that's somebody that's English. I would still, we've got terrible teeth. I would still call. You know, so I think. But also, one of the things that gets missed a lot, Carol, is the fact that when you know what your niche is, it makes marketing so much easier. It makes you writing your material. So when I'm thinking about writing new blog posts or newsletters, I'm just thinking about coaches that haven't got enough clients. It's not difficult. Before, with the Den Adventure, so I built a business without a niche, and people say, well, you did it. You know, I've had people on the course, loads of them say, well, you did it. Yeah, but I started in 2005 and it wasn't, you know, so I established myself before the real explosion in coaching happened. Plus, I had a really strong brand. I swore a lot in my blog. I used a lot of humor. I would talk about politics. You know, I'm clearly left of center. You know, it's just like people would get that. Right. And I would rip certain politicians or whatever. Now, do I advise coaches to do the same thing? No, unless it's that part of their authenticity and their, you know. So I had a brand. Going back to what you're saying, with a niche, you just talk to a certain amount of people. And one of the big problems that I get from people, or the big sort of barriers, is, well, there aren't enough people. And my question to that is, are there enough people in the world that are in your niche to keep you busy all the time? Because none of us as coaches need that many clients. I probably only need 15 to 20 a year now, because most of my clients are annual. Excuse me. So if there are enough people in your niche to supply you with enough clients, you don't have a niche problem, you have a marketing problem. It's how you find those people. And that's not the same as the niche isn't big enough. Right. Then you have to understand, okay, well, I don't know how to get to these people. And there's ways and means of getting to people. So unless you're, you know, my niche is, I only want to work with one-legged men called Jeremy with red hair. Okay, that might be a problem. But I've had clients recently, one of whom only dealt with people who've gone through organ transplants, and one of whom only dealt with people who've been through TBIs, traumatic brain injuries. Pretty narrow. How many people do you know that have had an organ transplant? I don't know anybody apart from my client.
Right.
But there's like 250,000 people or whatever. So people get freaked out because they're closing the net, so to speak. What happens every time you close it a notch? You rule out some people, but you appeal to the other people more and more and more until you get down to Jeremy with the one leg and the red hair who thinks, yes, that's the coach for me. I actually had a time, this was about 10 years ago now, where I took on 4 consecutive clients called Jeff. Seriously, different spellings, but Jeff. And I thought, I'm just going to call myself the Jeff coach. This is great.
That's awesome. I love that. All right. So good. So, I mean, that's kind of been the common consensus from my guests on the show, is that you really do need to niche down or niche down. So let me ask you, so for coaches, relatively new coaches that are, having a hard time getting clients, what would be like your best advice or strategy for them to, to start getting clients in, especially if they know their niche?
I think that's changed, Cheryl. I think if you'd have asked me 3 months ago, it would have been get offline and go and talk to as many people as possible. You can't do that now because the online thing takes time. It takes time. You can't start up an online, but unless you've got a lot of money to throw at it and do like a Facebook funnel or something and spend loads of advertising, then if you're going to do it online, let's presume you're saying online, okay, then I think get into Facebook groups and add value. Don't try and sell. Don't try and promote yourself. Go in there and help people as much as you can. It's all about helping people, but don't think you can build an online business in a matter of weeks, because you probably can't. And if you can, then I'll hire you. Let me know. And we maybe both will. I don't know. It's difficult, but it all comes back to just the acronym for building an online presence is EAT, which is expertise, authority, and trust. So you build your expertise. That leads to authority, and that leads to people trusting you. So, which is why having a Facebook group can be so useful. So I would say to people, get into groups where your ideal client is, help as many people as you can. Do not, under any circumstances, sell, and at the same time start to build up maybe a newsletter list or what have you. But give yourself time. If you need to make money in the next 3 months from coaching, and you're at ground zero, then I don't know.
It'll be difficult.
Yeah, it's not. I always hesitate to say, you can't do that, because that's ridiculous. There'll be somebody that did it, and that one example, disproves the rule. But it's really, really difficult.
Yeah. Well, and I think that I think it's certainly feasible to get 1 or 2 clients in 3 months, but I don't think it's feasible to, have a full-time practice or, pay your bills. And I think that's where the expectation, like having your manageable expectations, especially when you get out of training, there's coaches out there that say, hey, you can hit 7 figures in 6 months. Well, I'm sure there are the exceptions out there that have done that, but for 7 figures, you're talking about a couple of years of work. I mean, there's just no way around it.
At least I had actually one who's obviously bored with the current, you can do 6 figures in. So I had one that said 8 figures on LinkedIn that tried to connect me. The question you want to ask yourself, if these people can help you 8 figures inside however long, it doesn't matter however long it is, why are these scuttling around on LinkedIn, sending friend requests, connection requests or what have you? And that's the other thing, 3 years ago, I mean, on LinkedIn now, I probably get 15 connection requests a week from people telling me they help coaches. And for the most part, they can't. If it was that easy, they would do it themselves, and they wouldn't be on LinkedIn sending random emails out and what have you. And that's making my job harder, your job harder. It's because and then people hire people like that and say, or coaches hire people like that and say, it's just a scam industry. Well, no, it's just, you may have got scammed. It's just like any industry,
right? That's,
exploding. You're going to get people jumping into it. And a lot of those people have not done it themselves. A lot of those people have not. And by the way, you don't have to have been a coach to help people build a successful coaching business. You kind of have to have done, some of the people, like, I'm a high ticket closer. I'm like, dude, I spent 20 years in sales. Closing is the actually easiest part of the sale. If you've done your job properly and you've taken people through the sales process.
Right.
They bought this course from, a guy I won't mention, who's just like cornered the market on it. They spent $2,000 and now they're a high ticket closer. And
it can be frustrating. And I have noticed an increase on LinkedIn of, in fact, I had, my son helps me out with some things in my business. And one of the things I asked him to do was because he's a good salesperson. So I said, can you just go over on my LinkedIn and kind of just take a look around, give me your impressions on it. And, he came back like 2 days later and he said, there are more people out there trying to sell to coaches than there are coaches trying to get clients.
Yeah, there are. Definitely on LinkedIn. I would definitely agree with that. There's more people selling to coaches. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's happened is 1 or 2 people who are good at selling themselves have sold the system to people that's then kind of like, it's a pyramid scheme, basically. Yeah. So then, it's spread and spread and spread. And the high ticket closers, which peaked about a year and a half ago, I was getting 2 or 3 a day of these people. I'm an official high ticket closer. Yeah, because let's face it, every coach is, I've got these high ticket inquiries and I just don't know how to close them. Yeah, said nobody ever. I have never met if I had a coach say, Tim, I'm getting all these inquiries, I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
Seriously.
All right, so we're getting ready to close up in a little bit, but I'd like to ask one more question. What do you do when you want to call in more, when you want to take your business up a notch? What's something that you typically do?
I've not done that for so long. I am looking to do that actually at the moment because I'm launching a podcast. I've actually got 3 episodes recorded and I'm just not doing them because I'm fundamentally lazy. One of the reasons I got out of sales was, you know what, I don't want to go back into this working 60 hours a week or whatever. Yeah, so I'll take the dogs for a walk or whatever. So I'm probably a poor person to ask that, Cheryl, if I'm being honest. You know, I need to, because I'm 57 and really don't have a pension or any savings. So people say to me, "Oh, you must be worried about, your financial future." Well, no, I don't. Maybe I should be. Maybe I should be. Maybe I should be stepping it up. But I moved into this because I wanted to do it and because I loved it. But let me go back to the question because it sounded self-indulgent. I would say just diversify. You're doing a podcast. People think, oh, we're inundated with podcasts now. No, we're not. Podcasting is like, I got into blogging in the early days. So I started blogging in 2006. And whereas it wasn't like brand new then, in terms of self-development, it wasn't particularly established. Right. And for the first 2 years, it felt like where podcasting is now. And it felt like, oh, there's not really further. Well, now there's probably 1,000 times more blogs. You know, so I think the same is going to go for podcasts. And I think this is a new way of people communicating with one another, especially how things are changing now. So I do that. You know, look to just do stuff with a purpose. Too many coaches do things like, I'm writing an ebook. Well, why? Well, to get my name out there. Well, that's a terrible marketing strategy. Do it for a specific reason, or if you can promote it properly. So look for different forms of income, but do them properly. Don't half-ass it. Like, I'll just shove it up on Amazon and hope it sells. Well, guess what? It won't. Yeah.
Right. No, I agree with that. All right. So tell us, where can people find you to get in touch with you?
They can find me at coachthelifecoach.com. And I wrote a book that's on Amazon that actually has sold quite a lot of copies. It's called The Clarity Method, which is all about core values. And we never talked about core values, but that's, I don't talk about core values these days. One of the most important works I used to do with clients. So, and that's it. And just, you won't find me on Facebook because I use it for private use. Don't follow me on Twitter because I just troll Trump and tell jokes and swear a lot. Coaches say, well, we should see what you're doing. No, don't look what I'm doing on social media. It won't work.
Okay. All right. So your website and your book and we'll have links to those in the show notes. So so people can get a hold of you. So thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time, and I hope everybody. Yeah, I hope everybody listening got a lot out of this and also laughed a little bit today with Tim. So thank you very much. And we'll talk to you guys on our next episode.
Thanks, Cheryl.